Happy Friday, especially to my fellow Hungarians, it's been a great week. Apple and Amazon want to build a competitor to Starlink, GoPro decided to reinvent action cameras with replaceable lenses, and the shoe company wants to become an AI server company. Welcome to the Friday Checkout. This video was sponsored by Incogni. Okay, for my first story of the week, Amazon announced that it will acquire Globalstar and expand Amazon's LEO satellite network. Globalstar's biggest asset is that it powers Apple's satellite features on iPhones and Apple Watches, which the two firms are planning to expand on. And Globalstar also owns licenses to some spectrum that will be important if Amazon wants to turn their LEO network into a big Starlink competitor. And indeed, Bloomberg's Mark Gurman reported right as the news dropped that Apple plans major new satellite features for the iPhone, which is no doubt connected to Globalstar. These updates include 5G over satellite, Apple Map support, the ability to send photos in the Messages app via satellite, and also third-party APIs for other apps to tap into the satellite connectivity. All of this points towards Apple and Amazon wanting to move beyond just having emergency satellite communications, and instead they want to have kind of a mobile network similar to what Starlink has offered with T-Mobile in the US. Okay, for my second story of the week, GoPro announced the Mission 1 series, which consists of 3 models with some pretty crazy tricks. The most interesting one without a doubt is the top-end model, which now features a 1-inch sensor, similar to what you'd get on a competing DJI or Insta360 action camera, but GoPro now also added a replaceable lens mount to it. And if you're like, wait a second, nobody makes replaceable lenses for 1-inch cameras, then you're right. The mounting system that GoPro actually added to their cameras is for micro 4/3 lenses. Those are the type of lenses that you'd find on much larger cameras like the Panasonic GH series that I used until a few weeks ago. And on the one hand, this should make a ton of existing lenses compatible with GoPro, but on the other hand, the system would also be really weird. On the one hand, you'd end up with a really weird crop vector, and on the other hand, you'd end up with a really large, non-rugged lens attached to a really small action camera. That resulting camera would neither be fantastic as an action camera anymore, but then also not really as a pro camera, so it's kind of an odd combination. Anyway, GoPro has released a ton of sample footage, which, to be fair, does look qualitatively much better than normal action cameras and previous GoPros, so let's see. Meanwhile, the other 2 models have fixed lenses, but they have the same sensor and also the same updates, including a much faster processor, access to 32-bit float audio recording, and more. And in addition, there's also a brand new wireless microphone system that is designed to challenge the ever-popular DJI options. This one makes a lot of sense. We don't know the prices yet, and I have to say I'm kind of skeptical about this interchangeable lens system until I see it in action, but at the same time, I'm also really happy when companies try something genuinely new, so let's see how this goes. Okay, and for my third story of the week, you know the VC-backed shoe brand called Allbirds that almost went bankrupt recently? Well, their stock just jumped something like 5 to 10-fold this week. Wanna guess how that works? That's right, the shoe company is now an AI data center company. Allbirds is rebranding to New Bird AI, and it will, quote, execute a $50 million convertible financing agreement with an institutional investor and plans to use the proceeds to acquire graphics processing units, GPUs. The firm has essentially completely given up on their original business of making shoes and used their position as a stock market listed company to raise capital and to build some data centers. If all of this sounds familiar, it's because we've seen very similar things happening in the crypto space recently, like a bunch of non-crypto companies became crypto companies overnight for no reason other than the fact that their original businesses were failing and they just wanted to have some high stock market valuations. So all of this smells kind of like a bubble that is about to burst. I mean, don't get me wrong, AI is at least more useful than crypto was, but both spaces are just completely full of weird grifters. Alright, and on to our new segment, which I now just call Stonks, and this does not include Allbirds yet, because they're not a real tech company. Anyway, my tracker shows overall a very positive week for tech stocks, with even many of the bottom 10 of the tech stock that I track being in the green this week. The overall basis for this is newfound optimism for, ironically, AI growth, and also hopes that the Iran war might be coming to an end. Whether either of those are good reasons for the stock market to go up, we'll see. Anyway, only Lucid managed to have a really bad week due to their terrible earnings, while on the positive side, GoPro really stands out. The company seemed hopelessly inactive, and I guess investors are happy that they're doing at least something. Meanwhile, some more quick mentions are for Oracle, who made some AI data center deal with Amazon, plus Snapchat, who announced that they're laying off 16% of their staff just so they can replace them with AI. The stock market really likes that. Okay, and then moving on to our release monitor, we'll start with the new DJI Pocket 4, which seems like a really minor update. There's a new sensor, but it's still a 1-inch one, and you can get 4K 240 FPS, which is pretty cool, but other than that, there's not much else. Still, it's probably going to be popular as these things usually are. Next, the Huawei Pura X Max launched in China as the second generation of Huawei's funnily shaped foldables. This new generation is less weird as it now just looks like a wide format foldable that Apple and everyone else is reported to try later on this year as well, but that's still pretty cool. And meanwhile, Oppo also showed off the Find X9 Ultra, which is coming to international markets very soon. While the final specs have not been completely revealed yet, it is shaping up to be the most bonkers camera smartphone to date. It has a new 10x zoom camera with a huge sensor that they could squeeze in by engineering a periscope system that bounces the light around 5 times. That sounds very impressive. And then moving on to the brief, we stick with Oppo, who has launched ColorOS 16, and while there are a bunch of random features, the one that I found worth talking about is using AI to deal with restaurant menus abroad. Oppo says that you can use their AI to take a photo of a paper menu and generate a digital app-like click-through system on the fly out of that. And not only are dishes translated to your language, but then the AI also finds photos for the dishes, it adds allergens and ingredients, and once you select everything that you want, it even generates an ordering card that you can present to the waiter back in their own language. Now, I fully expect this to be somewhat slow and potentially also somewhat inaccurate in the beginning, but the ability of AI to generate fully custom interactive UIs on the fly is, I think, very interesting, and people want to have a lot more of that in the future. But then, talking of more fun updates, DaVinci Resolve 21 has also been released this week, and the popular video editing app that I also use now added options to edit photos as well. It's designed to be a kind of professional-grade replacement for something like Lightroom. Resolve already has all the color grading and editing options that you could possibly want for videos, so bringing those over to photos as well is a pretty interesting idea. And meanwhile, the company's nemesis Adobe has also gone ahead and released a Firefly AI assistant that will roll out across its various apps. It will be able to use the Adobe apps to do stuff on your behalf by giving them written commands, and then theoretically you should still be able to jump in and adjust things manually as well. Then, in some good news, Google is introducing a new spam policy for back button hijacking. Specifically, when a user clicks on the back button in the browser and the page hijacks that to keep them on the page, Google will now treat that page as a spam site to be punished in ranking. It seems like something that should have already been the case, but either way, I'm happy that it's happening, and I also hope that it will happen on Android apps as well, because I hate when an app like Instagram or TikTok, for example, when you press the back button on that, instead of exiting the app, it also just refreshes the app. I think that's terrible. Anyway, next, here's a fun one. The FCC exempted Netgear from its own ban on foreign routers, but didn't bother to explain why. Netgear is a US firm, but it makes its products outside of the US, and unless other companies get exemptions very soon too, it will now be the only consumer-grade company allowed to bring new Wi-Fi routers to the US market this way, and we just don't know why. Cool and normal. Then, in depressing news, Microsoft has revealed major price increases for all Surface PCs, which are now up to $500 more expensive now than they were at launch. Meanwhile, Samsung has also increased prices on their phones and tablets by up to $280 this week, and then Meta also announced price hikes on their Quest headsets as well. Mid-cycle price increases are like the opposite of what should be happening, but I guess they're the new normal now. But then some good news to lighten my mood is that my favorite place to hang out, Mastodon, has just received a big new round of funding from the German government's Sovereign Tech Fund that will enable them to build out loads of new features, with the most interesting one to me being end-to-end encryption for private messages. Finally. And talking of encryption, Proton has just launched Meet, their encrypted video calling solution that also integrates with their calendar. They now have a pretty comprehensive suite of polished online apps that are actually easy to use, though Meet in particular is a bit controversial. The contents of the meeting are supposedly properly encrypted by Proton on your device, but then they use something called LiveKit, a US tech company who streams the video across distributed servers, including those of Amazon and Oracle, and privacy advocates say that LiveKit also has access to the metadata of the callers, so US law enforcement could easily compel them to hand over that data if they feel like it. Now, I guess that getting good latency on video calls across the world using just Proton's own infrastructure could get tricky, so I'm not completely surprised. But if you expect to, run into trouble with the US government, for example, perhaps Proton Meet might not be the perfect tool for you. And you might wonder whether governments collecting data on you is even a real thing, but you really don't have to. The FBI director Kash Patel himself, for example, has just recently confirmed that his agency is indeed buying data that can be used to track people, including US citizens. The trick is that they're specifically buying data that is commercially available, They're saying that if any person can buy it, then the FBI can buy it. And importantly, this is something that the FBI loves because it's something they can do without a warrant, including on US citizens. Great stuff. And thankfully for Mr. Patel, there's a whole industry of data brokers who are collecting every piece of information that they can about you to create a profile and to sell that to just about anyone. The FBI, advertisers, scammers, your crazy ex, you name it. Meanwhile, wiping unwanted information about you off of the internet is exactly what my sponsor Incogni does. They find the data brokers and request that they delete the profiles that they have on you, which data brokers, at least in these countries, are legally obliged to comply with. You can see that I've had my account for more than 2 years now, and they've made almost 300 removals since, which is crazy. You get a report as it happens, and Incogni is a subscription because they then also go and follow up with the data brokers continuously to make sure that they don't just add you back right after having deleted you for the first time. Meanwhile, their newest feature is custom removals, where you can send Incogni a specific location on the internet that you want to nuke, and their data removal specialists will specifically reach out to those to remove your information on your behalf. To take back your personal data with Incogni, use my code FridayCheckout at the link below, and doing so gets you 60% off of their annual plans. That is incogni.com/FridayCheckout with the code FridayCheckout. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Friday.